Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live with Singer. My name is Bethany. I'm an education support specialist here with Singer Sewing Company, and today you are in my sewing room. I tried to clean it up a little bit for you guys, so I hope it looks okay. But I'm excited about the topic that we are going to be discussing today. And today is all about needles. And while that might not sound like the most exciting topic, it is one of the most important. If you're a sewist, it's very important that you know all about needles. So that's what we're going to talk about, because I really want you all to have successful sewing projects, and needles can make or break a project. So let's get into it. But while you guys are getting into our live, we are streaming to Facebook and YouTube at the same time, which is really cool. And it allows us to connect with so many more people all at once. So while you are joining our live, let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to know where you're watching from, and let us know what Singer sewing machine you sew with right now. What is your favorite Singer machine that you are working with right now? We would love to know. And then we're going to get jumping in. Now, I do have some colleagues in the background, not here, virtually, just like you guys, helping to answer some questions today. So if you see Ryan, Meredith, or Amy in the chat today answering your questions, they are there for that. So don't hesitate to ask questions in the chat on Facebook and YouTube. They will be there to answer them. If there's a question that I need to readdress or answer here on the camera, they will let me know, and I will be happy to do so. So, all right, needles. There's a lot to know about needles, but it's come down to some very simple facts, and I'm not going to cover all of it today, but I'm going to cover quite a bit, okay? So my number one takeaway for needles, if you don't take away anything else from today's live, the number one thing I want you to remember is how often you are supposed to change out your needle on your sewing machine. So before I give you that tidbit, I want you guys to think about how many hours of sewing before you need to switch out your needle for a new one. So if you think you know the answer to that, drop it in the chat. I'm going to peek over here and see if anybody's getting close. We do have some people that are commenting about where they're watching from. Thank you guys. And what their machine that they like to use, some heavy duties. There we go. We have people from all over. This is great. This is what I love about social media and technology, is being able to connect with everyone all at once. So if you guys think you know the answer to my little question, let me know in the chat. How many hours of sewing before you need to change your needle on your sewing machine? Now, I'm not going to give you the answer just yet. We're going to talk a little bit about needles, and then I will give you the answer. So you definitely want to stick around for that. All right, so something that's really important is the type of needle, choosing the right needle for your project. And there's a lot to choose from, but there's a few that we're going to talk about today that are the most commonly used ones that we use most often. And we're going to kind of dive into what some of those differences are and why you might want to choose that needle over a different needle for your project. So I'm going to switch over to this camera right here. And today I'm going to be demonstrating on the Singer 8060 sewing machine. This machine right now, by the way, is on sale at singer.com for $250 off. It is a wonderful machine. It's computerized, lots of bells and whistles. I'll be demonstrating it here in just a minute with the needles, but I wanted to show you all some important needle information. So let's start with this right here. This is just a little diagram of a needle and some of the components that make up a needle. What we call the anatomy of a needle. So we've got the point and the eye. The eye is where the thread goes through. The U-blade, needle size, needle type. These are the color coding, which we're going to talk about more in the middle in a minute. And the shank. This is what helps hold it into the machine. Okay. This is the most important part for you. Okay. When you're choosing the needle. Here's a little diagram about that. So this top color on your needle is going to be the type of needle, and the bottom color is going to be the needle size, okay? So when it comes to types of needles, there's a lot to choose from. Some of the most commonly used needles are universal needles, denim needles, stretch needles, for just to name a few. And then we also have overlock needles, which are for your sergers, okay? So this kind of information is going to apply to your sergers as well to make sure that you're using the right needle. You do not want to put a different needle into your serger. You want to use overlock needles. They're a specific type of needle for a reason, okay? But the ones we're really going to focus on today are going to be our universal, denim, and stretch. There are other great needles in here. You've got leather needles, you have microtex, quilting. You've got some very specific, some embroidery needles, which are really cool if you have an embroidery machine. So these are lots of variety here. Now, the size down here also matters when it comes to the type of needle in your project as well. The smaller the size or the larger the size, the more heavy duty the needle is. So most people will be using like an 80-12 or a 90-14, okay? That's usually kind of the wheelhouse of needle sizes. That makes sense. Now, I know I'm kind of showing you this printout that I have, but I also wanted to show you real quick. Actually, I can't. I'm using my phone after all. This information is all available on singer.com. So if you go to more information, there is a needle guide, and this is a PDF printout, and you can save it to your computer or your phone. I highly recommend saving it. It's got a wealth of information, and that would be a great starting point for learning more about needles beyond what we're going to talk about today. But if you want these diagrams right here, then they are on singer.com. They are available to you for free. Now, someone asked if for the machine price from a different region. For machine pricing for your area, the best thing to do is to go to singer.com and look up the Singer 8060 sewing machine and get the price right there. I know the discounts can vary based on the country you're in, but I know currently it is $250 off in the United States. So go check it out on singer.com, and that will give you the best information for pricing, okay? All right, so something else that I wanted to show you all real quick, and this is in that needle guide, and it's 2 wonderful pages here, and this goes through the types of fabrics that these needles are used for. So universal needles being known for using for woven, natural, synthetic fabrics. Let's see here, denim. Obviously, you're going to use a denim needle. This one right here says ballpoint knit fabrics. The thing about knit fabrics and ballpoint needles, you definitely want to use a ballpoint needle when you're sewing with knits. However, a universal needle is a semi-ballpoint needle. So sometimes, depending on the knit fabric that you're using, you can use a universal needle with knits. But if you're having any issues, if it's catching, your needle's catching on your stretch material, maybe you're using like a French terry that has those little loops on the underside, it may catch, and that's when you would want to switch to a fully ballpoint needle. But this is a wonderful diagram that goes into the different types of needles and the fabrics that are recommended to use those needles with. So if you have not downloaded this needle guide off of singer.com, I highly recommend it. All right, so now I'm going to show you a couple of things here. This is a pack of needles that came with this machine here, and you can see here that they are color coded, and that helps you know, but sometimes it's hard to remember what they are, and that's again when this guide comes in very handy. Sometimes I recommend like printing this off and just keeping it with your needles where you keep your needles, okay? Another important reason to hold on to this guide as well is, let's say you're using a denim needle for a project now, but then you're not using, you need a different needle for a different project. So you take that denim needle out, but that denim needle is still good. And there's no sense in throwing it away or wasting it. So it's good to put it in a safe place where you can keep up with how long you've been sewing with it. And if you forget what kind of needle it is, you can reference this color code again. For the next time you need a denim needle, you can go look into it. So the paper printout that I have is on singer.com. It's under more information, need help. There is a needle guide. And maybe someone can drop a link to that from our website in the chat for you guys. It is on our website, and it is 32 pages. Just so y'all know, it is 32 pages long. It goes into so much information about every type of needle that Singer makes and offers. We do highly recommend that you use Singer needles for your Singer machine. They are made for our machines. So when we talk about needles today, we are referencing the Singer needles, okay? And that printout is extremely, extremely helpful. All right, so I wanted to show you guys real quick a couple of things on the machine. When it comes to swapping out the needles, I've got some tips and tricks. When it comes to threading the needle and learning how to use the automatic needle threader, so many people are intimidated by it, but once you get the hang of it, it is so nice. It is so nice to have. And I no longer have to lick the thread and try to squint one eye and get the thread through the eye of the needle. I don't have to do that anymore. Our Singer machines with the automatic needle threader makes it so much easier. So I'm going to demonstrate that in a second. And then I'm also going to show you, I'm going to put in a new denim needle today because I intentionally did not switch out my needle on this machine for a reason. I wanted to show you all how to switch it out, and I desperately, desperately need to swap out my needle, and you'll see how rough it looks. So let's switch back over here real quick. All right, so over here on the machine, let me get you guys in a little closer so you guys can see better. So on this machine, I have a general purpose foot. I have a needle in place. I've already got it threaded. And on this side is our needle threader, okay? The first thing I want to do is to change out my needle. So I'm actually going to put my foot down to change out my needle. Can you guys see that okay? There we go. And I'm actually going to leave it threaded. Now, why would I want to leave the needle threaded when I'm going to change it out? Well, simply, if it's threaded, it's not going to drop down into my machine. My thread is going to keep it. And if it does kind of drop down in there, I can just pull the thread. It'll pull it right back out. I'm not going to lose my needle down into my machine. If you've ever lost a needle down into a machine or even a serger, you know how hard it is to get those out sometimes. So this is a little tip. Leave it threaded before you change it out, okay? Now your machine will come with a little screwdriver tool here, and that is what we're going to use to just loosen the screw. Now when I loosen the screw, I'm not doing it to the point where it comes all the way out. You just want to loosen it, okay? And I'm going to try to do this so you guys can still see, but it's kind of hard. But I'm just going to pull down on the needle. Let's do it this way. So I'm just pulling down on the needle, and you see it's still threaded. So it prevented it from dropping out down into the machine. Now I'm going to do my best to show you this needle. It's looking a little rough. It has seen better days. Let me put some fabric behind it. It might help it focus. It's a little blurry here. There we go. Well, it's going to have a hard time focusing, but this needle is some kind of funky. The color's almost worn off of it. I've used it so much, and it's really seen better days. Now, I sewed, if you haven't seen our project of the month, it is on my mannequin right here for June. And here is the kids version. It's the denim apron. So I used that needle to make both of these plus another sample one. And I used this same needle to also make our project for July, which I have hidden in my sewing room. So if you spot it, I will tell you what it is at the end of the video. I'll give you a little sneak peek. But this right here, these projects is what I was using this one needle for. And so I put a lot of hours on this one needle, and it is definitely time to swap it out. So let me see if I can get it so that you guys can see from this front-facing camera just how nasty. It's just grungy. It's just, it's seen better days. You can usually tell by looking at them that it's time for a change. And this one has definitely served its purpose. So we're going to put that needle in the trash. Now, this is a brand new denim needle right here. And you'll see this back side is flat, okay? Now, you see how bright and blue the color is on that one? So we're going to go back to the machine. And I'm going to put this needle in real quick. Now, the back side, this flat side, is what goes away from you, so towards the back of the machine. So that is important to know. To get your needle to fit in there properly, you definitely want, the back of it, the flat side, to go into the back. And never done this one-handed. I think I typically use two hands. So we're going to try to do this one-handed. If I can get it in there. Sorry, guys. All right. I think I'm going to have to use two hands for just a second. So I'm going to loosen it for just a split second now that I've got it in there. I was coming at it from a weird angle, but it is in there, and it just slides all the way up. You want to get it all the way up until it won't go up any further. Okay. And then I am twisting this tight with my hands, but then I also like to take my little screwdriver tool and give it a good extra turn. You don't want to get it too tight, but you want to get it in there where it is not going to have any movement whatsoever, okay? So it's always good to get it in there nice and firm. Okay, so now we have a brand new needle. It's so easy to swap out the needle, so there's no excuse to not do it, okay? Now, this part I think is so important. I'm going to come around this way. I know my hand is getting in the way. When you go to thread your machine, this little piece right here, this little hook part right here, right above the needle, okay? Your thread needs to be going in that. It helps guide your thread along your needle. Does that make sense? This little piece right here. I'm actually going to bring this whole machine in closer. So this little bar right here, your thread needs to be going behind that, okay? Now let's talk about threading it with the automatic needle threader. Some tips that I have for doing that. Let me get my thread going here. There we go. My thread was caught. Let me get it back behind there. All right, so tips for using the automatic needle threader. You definitely want to make sure that you put your presser foot down. It gives you more working space, okay? Another tip is you want your needle in the perfect position for using the automatic needle threader. The best way to do that on a computerized machine is if you have a needle up down button, which we do right here. I'll zoom out for a second. This little button right here is our needle up down button. If you put the needle down and then put it back up, that is in the perfect position for using your automatic needle threader. If you don't have a computerized machine with a needle up down button and you're using like a mechanical machine, you can use the hand wheel to get the needle to its highest point, okay? Now for using the automatic needle threader, and I have demonstrated this before in a couple of other videos, so we're gonna do it again today. There is a little hook right here, and you want your thread to go from this loop that we just threaded it to right above the needle into this hook on the needle threader, okay? I'm gonna try to, this is definitely a two-handed task, and we're gonna try to do it without getting my hands in front of the camera as best as possible. So we're gonna push this lever right here. We're gonna push it down. And when we push it down, we're still holding this thread off to the left. And then we're gonna bring it over to the front. There are two prongs that wrap around your needle right here. That, one on each side, and then there's one on top of each other. So there's actually four. There's two on this side and two on that side that wrap around the needle. And you want to put your thread right in between those prongs. And then I like to Let me pull a little more thread here. Have a little bit more of a tail. There we go. And then I like to hold my thread to the back and slowly release my needle threader. And if you can see right here, I'm going to turn it. There's a little loop that comes through the back side of the needle. And then all you have to do is pull that little loop and your needle is threaded. It's that easy. I'm going to do it really quick and try to show it to you guys again. Well, until my thread gets all knotted up. There we go. I have a long tail, so and we have our thread cutter over here. There we go. It's very easy to use. I'll do it one more time. There we go. Simple enough. So now we have our needle threaded. We've replaced our needle. Everything's going great. We have our denim needle in place. The other thing I wanted to show you all today is this presser foot. I'm going to show it to you up close real quick. This presser foot right here is one of my favorites that comes with these machines. I'm actually going to switch to this overhead camera so you guys can see it better. It has this little spring here. Now this foot comes with the 8060. It comes with the Quantum Stylus 9960. It also comes with, I believe, the heavy duty 6800C as well. It should be listed on the machines in the descriptions, but this is a general purpose presser foot, but it has this little spring here, and a lot of people don't know what its purpose is. So I'm going to show you real quick now. On our last Facebook and YouTube Live, I did demonstrate this then when we were talking more about sewing with denim and featuring the Quantum Stylus 9960. So this machine also comes with this presser foot, so I thought I would show it here on this machine. All right. Now we got to get it closer. There we go. All right. So I am going to take a piece of denim here, and you can see this is not really a stretchy denim. This is a tough denim that I have, a scrap, and I'm going to fold it over, and I'm just going to sew straight down. I'm making like a mock seam for like if you were hemming a pair of jeans, okay? So I'm going to just sew straight down this real quickly. Nothing fancy here. We're just doing a straight stitch. All right. So I've just got a straight stitch here. Now I'm going to fold it in half again. So it looks like this. Basically what I'm making is multiple layers of denim here. This is like if you were to hem a pair of jeans and needing to get over a thick, bulky seam, okay? And that's what we're trying to mimic. I'll show you how this foot gets us up over all of this bulk, and there's obviously no way we could have done this without a good denim needle. This is through a lot of heavy duty denim. So I'm just doing a straight stitch. Now you'll notice the front of this foot has this curve going up, okay? And as it's going up, this denim is kind of going underneath it. But now that my needle is right at the edge of this seam, I'm going to stop. I'm going to leave my needle in the down position, and I'm going to lift my foot, okay? And when I lift my foot, it allows me to bring the spring up and lock it into the little hole that's in the back. When I engage the spring, it levels out the back of my foot with the level of the front of my foot, which is at the higher level where there is bulk to get over that seam. Now, as I begin to sew over the seam, it'll keep the foot nice and level with this higher elevation in fabric. And then once it starts to get past the elevation, the spring will automatically release You'll hear a little pop. It's kind of fun. And then it'll go back down the other side. This needle is getting right through all of our denim. It popped right out of the spring. And then we get right back down to the other side. I like to use the automatic thread cutters with the scissor button. All right, so see how easily it gets over that bulky seam so nicely? And it's all because we have this additional spring on this foot. It just comes in so handy. I love to feature this foot and to explain how it works every time I can go live. It's such a great little attachment that comes with several of our machines. And this denim right here makes it so much easier. I don't know about you guys, but I love to sew with denim. So I'm hoping this will help you guys be successful with our project of the month with our denim apron. I will tell you, there were several times when making this that foot came in handy, especially attaching this pocket. This is a pocket off of a pair of my dad's jeans that he doesn't wear anymore. And to be able to get over these seams and attach it to my denim apron, that foot made it go flawlessly. So I highly recommend using that foot if you have it with your machine. If not, just take your time. Maybe adjust your foot as you go over these seams. But that is, it definitely makes it a lot easier when sewing that project of the month. So speaking of projects of the month, I asked you guys earlier if you spotted my project of the month for July. And I think someone caught an eye of it, but I have another one sitting right here, and I'll show it to you up close. This is going to be our project of the month for July. This is a vinyl bag. We used 2 different types of vinyl and 2 different colors. We made our own strap. We inserted a zipper. It's lined with cute strawberry fabric. We made these fun little decorative stitches for seeds. And I just am so excited. I loved making this handbag. It was so much fun. And I cannot wait for you all to be able to make one too, because nothing says summer like fresh strawberries, which I had some this morning for breakfast. Let's see here. So yeah, the strawberry bag hanging right there. That was your little sneak peek. And that's what we're going to be making next month. This month, we are still working on our denim aprons. I can't tell you how many times I've made these aprons. They are so wonderful. I have made them with other fabrics as well. I've got one hanging back there that's pink and white for my sewing room. I made one for my dad he doesn't do a lot of grilling, but he has a wood shop, and it came in very handy for his wood shop to keep his clothes from getting so much sawdust and stuff on them. So yeah, these are great. This is a kid size one. I think the kid size one could be made for like when they want to do like arts and crafts and you don't want them to get paint or marker all over their clothes. This could be a lifesaver there too. So definitely take the time to go out and do our project of the month. They have been shared on our socials. If you go to singer.com and you go to inspiration, under inspiration is sewing projects. And our most recent one will be at the top of the list. And you can go through and see all of our previous ones as well. But they are free. So you just click on them and have a little PDF that I've written with photos of step-by-step instructions on the projects. And then a full list of supplies that you'll need to be successful in your projects. All right. Now, at the beginning of our live today, I asked you how many hours of sewing before you need to change your needle. And the team had sent in some of your suggestions. And some of y'all were pretty close. I was quite impressed. But the spot on area of the range that is recommended for your Singer sewing needles is 6 to 8 hours. So every 6 to 8 hours, you need to be changing your needles. So after making 2 aprons and 2 handbags, I definitely needed to change that needle. Might have been pushing it a little bit, to be honest with you. But it's changed now. You saw me get rid of that old one. Oh, that was rough. And now I have a new one in my machine ready to go and make some more projects for you this month. I'm excited about some of these other projects I'm working on for you all. If you have any questions, let me know. Let me look in the chat real quick. Okay, so has anyone heard the hack of storing your used needles in like a little bottle? Okay, so I was going to tell you guys, and I could not find mine, which means I need to make a new one. And maybe when I make a new one, I'll write you guys a special project just on how to make one of these. They're really simple. It's called a needle book, and it's made with felt. And each page is a different type of needle. So I would have a little felt strips cut and sewn down the middle, so folded over like a little book. And each page will be for different needles. And you can just take your needles. Well, I threw that one away, but you just take your needle and stick it down into the felt. And then you can just write on it, or you can use your decorative stitches. We have lettering stitches here on this machine and several of our other computerized machines. And you could put the word denim at the top. And then you could stick your needles in there. And then you could always put a little piece of tape or something that says like how many hours roughly you have used that needle. Because a lot of times I'll use a denim needle for a couple of projects, and then I need to switch back to a universal needle. But then maybe I want to sew a dress. You know, I made my little dress here, and I need to do some sewing for the buttons and things. And maybe I need a stretch needle for my stretchy rib knit here. And obviously I'm not going to use that one needle for 6 to 8 hours straight. I'm going to switch them out. So having a little needle book like that is probably the best way to keep up with your needles. I personally will leave them in the little packs until I use them. So my needle book is just my used needles. And then I will swap them out. And that way I'm not wasting needles. You know, I'm not getting rid of perfectly good needles. Someone had asked earlier about twin needles. Singer does carry twin needles, and you can use them on a lot of the machines. So if you're wondering which machines you can use it on, if you go to singer.com and you search for your machine, if the machine is not listed on our website anymore, you can look for the user manual. All of our user guides are on singer.com for previous machines as well, and you can download that, and it'll let you know if you can use a twin needle on your specific machine. Twin needles are a lot of fun. Maybe we'll do some decorative stitches here coming up for our next few projects, and I'll show you guys how to use a twin needle because they're really fun. All right. The pattern for the larger what? Someone said that they changed their needle at the beginning of each project. That is smart. But for some people who don't have as many needles, just know you don't have to switch at the beginning of every project. But if you do, that's not hurting anything. It's better safe than sorry. Let's just put it this way. If you're having issues with your stitches skipping, your machine's not sewing just right, you've tried rethreading it, a lot of times it ends up being the needle that needs to be swapped out. So it's good to do it more often than not. For stitching through paper, just use an old needle or any tips. Okay, so if you're sewing with paper, I think an old needle would be fine, or a needle that's on its way out in the sense that you've used it quite a bit. Should be okay. Paper, here's the other thing about needles. So when you're looking at needles and the needle size, the bigger the needle, the bigger the hole that it's going to put in that material. So when you can get away with using the smallest needle possible for your project. So for a denim needle, I might try to do the 90-14 size denim needle over going for something bigger. And if that doesn't work for my project, then I might switch to a bigger denim needle. But it will leave the holes in your fabric and your material. So with paper, most materials pretty forgiving. Faux leathers, vinyls, those kind of things are not going to be forgiving. So I just used a smaller denim needle on this one. You could have used a leather needle as well on this project, which we'll talk about next month. But the bigger the needle, the bigger the hole it's going to leave. So paper obviously is not going to be forgiving. So if you're sewing through paper, you might want to use the smallest needle you can use. So universal needle, the 80-12 or smaller would probably be best, so it doesn't leave as big of a hole, if that helps. Some people will use paper shapes and designs to help teach people and children how to sew and how to sew straight lines, how to follow a zigzag, those kind of things. So those can be fun little templates to practice on. The pattern for the larger apron. The larger apron. So the patterns for the aprons are included in the instructions. I did a little drawing of what the pattern will look like and what all of the angles mean. But in this project, I actually teach you how to draw and make your own pattern for these aprons using parchment paper. It's very simple. It's just a few measurements. You can actually adjust it to fit any person at any age. I kind of gave you guys like a average kid size and an average adult size, but if you want to make it longer than I did, you can. If you need to make it wider, you can. If you need to make it shorter, it's totally up to you. But I do teach you in the instructions for this month's project on how to make your own pattern. And that way, when you make your own that fits you or your dad or whoever you're making it for, then you can write on your pattern this person you made it for, so you know their size. And then if you ever want to make it again, you can, and you can reuse that pattern. So that was the easiest way to go about doing it. It's very simple. It's just a few measurements, and I walk you through all the steps to do that. So it gives you a little bit of an introduction to pattern making, which I love to do. I love to make patterns. I love to adjust patterns. So this is a very easy one to start with if you've never made a pattern before. So I challenge you to try it. It's pretty easy, and then you can save it and reuse it. Oh, someone said pretty dress. Thank you. I love the flowy dress, and the best part, it has pockets. Everybody loves a dress with pockets. All right, guys, if you guys don't have any more questions for me today about needles, I'm going to hop off here and give you guys your afternoon. But again, just a quick reminder, this needle guide is on singer.com. I highly recommend going to our website, downloading it, saving it to your computer, maybe print off this one page. You can just print the one if you need to and save the rest to look over later. But this right here is going to be a big game changer in learning about needles. All right, so between this takeaway and reminding yourself to change your needle every 6 to 8 hours, I hope those are some of the biggest takeaways you had from today's live, and learned a lot about our needles and the things that you can use them for. Okay, guys? Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time. I will see you next month. We will be sewing a strawberry bag, and I will be showing you some tips and tricks on how to best execute that project. And until then, I'm Bethany with Singer Sewing Company, and I'll see you next month. Bye, guys.